evening, everyone. It is now 6 p.m. June 3rd. City Council meeting will come to order. This evening's invocation is presented by Councilmember Roberts.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Bow your heads if you wish to. Good evening, Heavenly Father. Father, we come to you this evening and we ask for your guidance, wisdom, and support as we begin this meeting. Help us, Father, to engage in meaningful discussion and help all of us, Father, to grow closer to our community. Father, may all of our decisions be righteous in your sight for our benefit and your glory. Father, please be with our law enforcement and all our first responders and keep them safe from harm as they serve our city. Father, our citizens, our staff, our mayor, and our council members are often tasked with making decisions for our wonderful city. And Father, you have blessed us with free will to make those decisions. I pray that we all remember that our important decisions always seem to work out best when we go to you first, Father, to pray for direction. And Father, we thank you for this beautiful city. We are so often reminded what a beautiful artist you truly are. Continue, Father, to remind us that all we do here this evening, all that we may accomplish, is for the pursuit of truth, for the greater glory of you, Father. In Christ's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. All right, please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Frank Bankert.
Present.
Councilmember Lloyd Roberts.
Here.
Councilmember Kim Shaw Elliott.
Present.
Mayor Dave Gaddis.
Here.
City Manager Kyle Riefler.
Here.
And City Attorney Randy Mora.
Present. Thank you, Renee. First item on the agenda is approval of the agenda. Do I have a motion to approve? Motion is made by Frank Bankert. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Kim Shaw Elliott. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the agenda is approved. Now we move on to citizen comments. If any citizen would like to address the council about a topic not already on the agenda, please raise your hand and wait to be called on. We ask that you limit your time to no more than 3 minutes, and remember to direct all questions and comments to the council. If any council member would like to respond to citizen comments, please hold the responses until we reach council comments. If the city manager or city attorney would like to address citizen comments, please hold your responses until your designated report time. Would any citizen like to address the council about a topic not already on tonight's agenda? Yes, sir. Please come to the podium and give us your name and address. And please limit your time to 3 minutes.
My name is Nikolai Novoselic. I am the owner of the corner property Go Boulevard at 23rd Street. And I would like to speak about the curb work done, or precisely on the south side, my side. I can bring a diagram. In black is what was done. In red is where it should have been, and where it was before. And in blue is existing, just the end over there. The first picture shows the new work done. The very first one that you have. Yeah. Yeah. The new work done. This area where the water stays, there is negative pitch. In front of the driveway, King Row, here is the negative pitch, 3/4 of an inch. So, can you keep going? another negative pitch over here, quarter of an inch. That makes it 1 inch. Can you keep going? Okay. That is the end of 23rd Street by Bayshore. Approximately, this picture shows with the level with the laser beam shows 21 inch, and there is further down probably 3-4 more inch. So that is what my level shows. The two levels, Gove and Bayshore, about 2 feet to work with, 2 feet of pitch. Here, can you go back? Okay, here, my driveway, there's no pitch in front of the driveway. The pitch starts here. This is the further from Go Boulevard is there, the further end of Go Boulevard. But it's already probably 5-6 inch, the new one, higher than where it was the previous one. Can you roll all the way in? That is how it was. There is another one, probably the same here. That's how it was. There was a V, the new one has no V. That's where the 5-6 inches are lost.
Next
No.
3 minutes.
That's all right.
Mr. Thank you.
I'm interested.
Thank you. Can you roll back? Okay. This is the middle of the street. The level was placed here. So the level itself has about, when placed on the ground, has about 3/4 of an inch where the laser beam is. So those 3/4 and the 1 inch that was negative makes 1 3/4. This is the middle of the street that shows if the curve is returned from there to Go Boulevard, there is about 8.5 inch to work with out of the 2 feet. Can you roll it further? No. This is between 102 and 104, which is the
Sir?
second and third counts.
I apologize for interrupting, but could I suggest if you might start at the end and tell us what your major point is? And I see that you're supporting that point, but is your point that there's not sufficient slope in the street? Or are you saying that there's a dip? I'm not quite sure.
There's no sufficient slope, and in front of my property, there is no room for a pitch.
I have an idea. City Manager Riefler, have you spoken with this gentleman about this issue?
Yes.
Okay, all right. So is this something that you can bring up during your comments?
Yes,
And
I
sort of
think
explain what's going on, because I'm completely lost.
Okay. Yeah, that's not.
Is that okay? Because I think
We
he's going to
spoke.
speak for you whenever the time comes.
Okay.
Thank you, sir. Do we have other citizen comments? Seeing as we have none, citizen comments are now closed. All right, is anyone here from the Pinellas Suncoast Fire and Rescue District tonight? Nope.
May I got a last minute email from Chief Davidson who said he had an emergency tomorrow.
Okay. Did he send, let me see if he sent anything in a report. I don't think he did.
There is a report in the packet.
I think I actually printed that one. Would you like to summarize, Mr. Riegler? Sure.
Looks like they had 12 calls for service in Bel Air Beach through May 27th. That included motor vehicle accidents, medical responses, and electrical hazards. Looks like they're still working on purchasing the land to build a new fire station, but it is moving along. And it's to replace they're continuing to design a mainland fire station to replace a 50-year-old station, and the personnel has been recertified for pre-hospital and trauma life support, as well as their medical recertifications.
Any questions for the city manager? No? All right, thank you very much. All right, now we are on to the city attorney report. This is item number 5 on the agenda. Mr. Moore, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Oh, I'm sorry. The whole fire chief thing threw me off. There we go. All right, let's go backwards. Item 3, the Pinellas County Sheriff's Office sir, would you please come up and give your presentation? And
Good evening, Mayor and the council. My name is Sergeant John Shields with the Sheriff's Office. I have the stats for the month of April for Bel Air Beach. We've had 0 for the month of April, which is down from March, which is a good thing. We had 3 arrests within the city during the month of April, which are on the statistics listed there also. There was a total of 489 events within the city during the month of April, and we had 562 units responding to those events. Very fortunately, we had no crashes within the city during the month of April. And we had 158 citations to include warnings within the city during the month of April, which is the breakdown is within that the statistics that were present. Does anyone have any questions about these?
council, any questions?
When you say traffic felony, is that like a DUI or a?
Yes, they are broken down. The arrests, there was 1 misdemeanor, traffic felony, which is a DWSR, which driving while license is suspended for a 3rd conviction, makes it a felony. Then we had some other traffic misdemeanors that are broken down also.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Any other questions?
Sergeant, who has jurisdiction to patrol the intercoastal here?
Within the waterway itself,
Yes.
FWC generally has that waterway, and we support them within this section. It breaks up depending on the area. Sometimes it's FWC, sometimes it's our Sheriff's Office with the Marine Patrol.
All right. How do we address questions like the no-wake rules around the protected islands? Because it seems like that's been violated with more frequency. And I understand that there was a manatee baby that was recently killed, at least a little further downstream, so I'm concerned about it.
The only fortunate way we can enforce those is whether, it depends on the section of waterway, whether it's the FWC or our Marine units that were out with the Sheriff's Office. And it's just being out and about. We do have a larger contingency of boats and enforcement that we have on the water, but unfortunately we can't be everywhere at once. Sometimes with the Memorial weekend that we just had, it was all hands on deck and everybody was out on the waterway. So we try very hard to be everywhere as much as possible. We try to be where the concentration of the most people are in responding for calls, water rescues and disabled boats and things like that. So it's kind of, we have a lot of resources, but it is sometimes stretched thin.
I
And
understand.
we try our best. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Just here real quick, I noticed in March we had 2 assaults. Any general or specific information regarding that as to what actually happened?
For March, we had 2 assaults. I don't have those stats right now to bring up in those. Those could be open cases also, and we're not able to comment on any open cases. I would have to look in for the month of March. It's our uniform UCR codes. Sometimes the cases are open and sometimes they're closed with an arrest. If there's more legwork or investigation that has to be done. Usually they stay open until they exhaust all leads or those are already done, closed by arrest. But I don't have those specific stats on those two events.
Okay. I was more concerned about whether or not they were assaults from one citizen to another citizen. I would be more concerned if it was a non-citizen just roaming around that assaulted a citizen.
Yes, I don't believe that was it, but I don't have the exact
Okay.
information. But I did make a note to try to get that information.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Sergeant. I'm a little curious about the saltwater fisheries violation. Is that somebody fishing without a license, or are they
It could
catching the
be
wrong thing?
several different things. It could be a fish that is over or under the slot limit. It could be fishing without a fishing license. It could be mullet fisheries. It could be a plethora of different events.
Now, is that a handoff of them from the FWC?
Typically not. Typically, we check waterways periodically, people fishing from bridges or seawalls and things, and maybe it just was an encounter with a citizen that maybe they had an expired license or not having a license at all, or had an under or over slotted fish.
And my last question is, have you heard any rumors of another season of derelict boat hunting?
I have not heard that, sir, no. But I know the sheriff's office is constantly monitoring all the derelict boats that are in the waterways within Pinellas County.
Okay. I bring that up because you probably even saw the sailboat that was on its side 3 or 4 mornings in a row, almost all the way up to the
Yes.
where that little ramp is over there. If you hear anything, we'd love to know.
Okay, sir.
It's a total nuisance.
Totally understand. Yes, sir.
Anything else for the sergeant?
I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
Thank you. Last month, we talked about the fact that there were improvements at the intersection of Gulf and Causeway with AI implemented lights. And that was great news. My casual observation is that it seems to be improved all the way up and down Bay. And is that correct? Were there other installations that may have improved the traffic flow?
I know it's an ongoing thing with Department of Motor Vehicles and Public Highway, also with the Sheriff's Office and things, but the County Highway, they're always constantly working on that. So I personally don't get any stats that, hey, we're working for these projects and these are going to be in the future, or this is what we're doing. But I know they're constantly trying to work and improve all these lights and the flow of traffic for all of these intersections and roadways. I know it's a constant battle.
I mean, I've on several occasions managed to get all the way down to 19 without stopping, which is pretty phenomenal, so I appreciate that.
Let me know how you did that.
All within the limit.
Yes, ma'am, of course.
Any other questions or comments? Thank you, Sergeant, I appreciate it.
Well, have a good evening.
Next up, Deputy Trump for the monthly code enforcement report.
Good evening. Deputy Trump with Pinellas County Sheriff's Office. I'm the code enforcement officer. And we had a slower month this month with 24 entries. Basically, we had, I dealt with 4 high grass and weeds, 1 written ordinance violation with a fine, 2 unpermitted remodels that dealt with, one was a roof project, another one was a project that really hadn't started yet. It was more of a jacuzzi and an electrical issue there, but we took care of that. And I had 2 this last Memorial Day weekend where basically the guys were out working on a couple of these houses they're trying to finish up the construction on, but they were unaware that they weren't supposed to be doing construction on holidays. So I had a little chit chat with them. They were very cooperative to try and take care of that. And I added to the traffic citations myself with one coming off of 22nd Avenue and ran the 4-way stop and then a little speeding. So we stopped and gave him a little talking to and a citation there also. I was able to get out on beach enforcement on 4 different occasions with really no violations or anything else seen as far as on the beach. Everybody's been behaving themselves and trying to work accordingly. Any questions as far as this?
Councilman?
I want to jump on something that you brought up the other deputy about fishing license and that. What are the requirements, like when you're fishing on the beach? I know in Indian Rocks Beach, you're not allowed to fish when there's bathers 100 yards within a fishing pool. I don't believe we have anything in our ordinance, but you have to maintain some type of a license, right?
Yes, if you're fishing from the beaches, you're still required to have a saltwater fishing license, yes.
That's what I thought. I think a lot of these people come down the weekend or whatever.
And
It's very cheap to get. too.
right, it is, and especially if it's just a temporary one, like if they're here on vacation, they can go to Walmart, they can go to almost just about any
You
big
go
shop.
online and get it.
Go online, right. There's several different ways they can get it, they're very cheap, just that they have it so they're in accordance with it.
Are they ever checked? You guys ever checked for licenses, or is that a?
Yes, that's actually what was brought up before with some of the saltwater fisheries violations and stuff. Our marine unit will go out, they'll hit the beaches once in a while, they'll hit the bridges. They're not always on boats, they may be in their trucks or however, and that's why the sergeant said that they'll stop by underneath the bridges, they'll catch is a bad word, but they'll make contact with several citizens and they'll check for illegal fish, illegal sizes, check to make sure they have their licenses and everything too, so that may be exactly what was brought up in the last session.
Thank you.
I can add one thing to, in reference to the boat that is out there, the sailboat. It has been tagged by our marine unit as a derelict vessel. The process is not overnight. The cases have to go on for 21 days. Once the case is finished and they have deemed it as a derelict vessel and they have not been able to make contact with the owners or dealing with it in a different way, then the boat would be deemed as derelict and we can remove it. Then the next process is getting the contracting company out there in order to remove it. So they're trying to keep it within the time limit, roughly that 21 to 30 days to have it out of there. But I do know that boat actually has been tagged.
Glad to hear that. Who pays for all that? I believe the county does, is that right?
As far as the removal of the boats, some of it is county, but some of it they get through state grants also. WC actually puts out a lot of the grants in order to get a lot of these boats removed. So it's a combination of.
Very good to know. Any other questions? No. I'm guessing that this list is very short because either one, it's hot, or two, they've heard the arbitrary new sheriff is in town.
I don't know, but we did, like I said, I've been working with Kyle and everything, we've been looking at, trying to stay on top of everything. It's been a slower month as far as complaints or problems or issues.
This has been one of the shortest lists I've seen yet. Why don't you just take credit for it?
Okay. Because when I come out here, I try to, even on the days that I'll hit the beach, I try to get up and down every single street in the city every day that I'm out here and, double check that first before we even do any beach enforcement or anything. So it's just been a slower month, thank goodness.
That's good. It seems to be working out. I'm glad you're here. Yes, sir.
Just one other positive comment. I noticed that the house on 21st Street, I guess it's in ownership transition, but it has been cleaned up.
107, yes.
Right, which is a good thing.
I've stopped by, I've talked to one of the workers there who's actually a friend of the, new owners, if you want to put it that way. And he was actually starting to work on the inside. Of course, they had a mess inside, I guess, so it was terrible. But at least, right off the bat, they got the front cleaned up and the yard cleaned up and everything else. So it is going much better.
Great, thank you.
Any other questions or comments? Deputy Trump? No? All right. Thank you very much, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Okay. Mr. Moore.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Happy to report, as far as we know, it's a safe Memorial Day here in the city. Over the past month, I've done some presentations for the Florida Association of Code Enforcement. I was just at the FCCMA conference that Kyle was attending, speaking on some new legislation that's been adopted relative to unsheltered persons. got a presentation this coming weekend with the Institute of Elected Municipal Officials, especially for some of our newer officials, always a resource to consider with the Florida League of Cities University. I'll also be presenting at the Florida Planning and Zoning Association this week. Getting back to things inside the city, though we are in June, nearly 3 months post-session, there are still bills that have not been signed. We continue to track them closely. I think about 8 bills got signed just in the last week. But for example, bills that are being held near and dear to the Pinellas Beaches, such as the short-term rental bill, still has not been sent to the governor for signature. As a reminder, that process is that once it passes both chambers of the legislature in identical form, it has to be sent to the governor. The governor has 15 days to sign any legislation sent to him. If not signed in those 15 days, it passes. As far as bills that have been sent, and there are dozens, all but 2 have been signed, only 2 have been vetoed by the governor, so we'll see what that means for the remaining bills that are coming forward. There is no set deadline by which a bill has to be, at least not in the Florida Constitution, by which bills have to be transmitted to the governor, so we await that. As far as legislative happenings in this community, we are approaching budget season, and I'm sure the manager will be speaking to that shortly. For our newer members, the budget has to be adopted by October 1st each year. That's one of the only legislative acts you have to do annually, so we'll be beginning that process. More recently, as far as other happenings in the community, I did have a meeting about 2 weeks ago with Member Bankard and a member of the community, Mr. Manzo, concerning the Bel Air Beach and Bel Air Shore exchanges relating to the beaches and their uses. 2 real issues going on there. One, the interlocal agreement, and the second issue being the concern of some residents relating to their ability to use the wet sand beaches in the same manner as the members of Bel Air Shore. Very productive discussion, informative, and I continue to move forward. I am in weekly contact with the town attorney for the town of Bel Air Shore and making progress on items both related to the interlocal agreement and just general as getting better acquainted as we work together as neighboring jurisdictions. Outside of that, the one other thing I would add, since especially as Member Roberts mentioned it earlier, there is a property, I believe it's 107 21st Street is the address, that has recently come into compliance. That is a function of a change, if not in ownership, certainly in possession of the property, and an investor style approach that has brought the property into compliance on the exterior. They are looking to sell the property and continue to enhance the exterior, landscaping, etc. I believe they're targeting a sale within the next week or 2 for continued compliance. As part of that, they have approached the manager and myself. A representative from the property has approached the manager and myself with requests that this commission consider reducing the fines or otherwise eliminating the fines on the property, given the expedience with which they work with this. That is the request. I think there's a representative of that property here now, though it seems they may have exited the room at the moment as I looked down at my notes. So I'm not sure they're in the room at the moment. But that's not something that's formally on the agenda tonight, but it was something that was asked of us to make you aware of in these hearings. We could, if you wish to discuss it this evening as a commission, you could do as a council. You could do so during other or unfinished business, but it was not an agendized item. For purposes of the record, we did receive correspondence as I was traveling to the hearing. I think that gentleman just re-entered the room. But I did receive correspondence from that property owner, from a representative of that property stating, hope this email finds you well. As you know, this office has been working for the property owner in order to deal with the open code violations and fines. We've made significant progress dealing with these violations. In fact, it appears all violations have been resolved and the manager has confirmed that they're in compliance presently, so the fine should cease. We promptly assisted the owner, who was unable to act on her own behalf, and took all necessary steps to address these open issues. We acknowledge that the violations occurred over an extended period, resulting in a formal invoice exceeding $50,000 in fines. However, since we were not in a position to address these fines, we respectfully request that these penalties be waived. Relatedly, we are also going to improve the appearance of the outside of the property with landscaping and other improvements with a view of listing the property over the next few weeks at a full fair market value. We look forward to your response. Thank you in advance for your professional courtesy. Again, though not necessarily part of my report, given that I think the member of the public who intended to raise this entered the room after public comment had ceased, I wanted to make sure you were aware of that, and as it relates to code compliance. And so that's all that's fits print in my report, Mr. Mayor, and I'm happy to answer any questions from the council. Council?
I just want to thank you and Kyle again for that meeting we had. I thought it was very productive.
Our pleasure. We work for you. Thank you, folks.
Any other questions or comments for the city attorney? Thank you, Mr. Moore.
I do wish to make one note because I just can't resist, Mr. Mayor. There are two very, very engaged members of the public here in the back row. My children are in attendance tonight, and I'd be remiss if I missed the opportunity as a father to embarrass them publicly. So,
Are you punishing them?
this is summer homework.
I see one of them trying to knock me out.
All right. Up next is the city manager report, Mr. Riegler.
Thank you, Mayor. I'm going to start off at the top and just work down. We have the Gulf Boulevard undergrounding project. I'm happy to say after we did the piggyback agreement for the Spectrum conduit, that is more than halfway done. And at this point, they feel it could be wired and drop down from aerial poles to underground by the end of September. So that's moving along. Hopefully there's no delays on that. The next is our stormwater improvement project. Currently, we got the streets that have been started doing the curb replacement, Morgan Drive, 25th through 23rd, and they're currently down at Cedar, Spruce, and Palm next to the building. Right now, those are to be the first streets that will be asphalted, resurfaced, and restored. And the schedule for that is late June at this point. We're currently, part of what the resident who spoke tonight, forgive me if I say his name incorrect, I think it's Noble, so that's, he lives at the corner of 23rd and Gulf Boulevard. We've met with him several times. The last time I spoke with him about this issue was the Friday before last, and being out of town this past Friday when typically we do our on-site meetings, it's my understanding that city engineer Larry Flutie had talked to him and has talked to the contractor. Some of his concern is that there is a negative pitch, which we can have, starting from his driveway going towards a depression at the corner of 23rd and Gulf Boulevard. The layout of the street is by the sidewalk on Gulf Boulevard where the radius is, it is very low. It over the years has puddled and left sediment buildup, even growing weeds. That scope of the road is actually Pinellas County right away. In looking at it, we think the best avenue approach is to start at a high point, right at the very beginning of where, it'll be just east of the sidewalk on Gulf Boulevard, and then, continue our continuous, slope all the way down the Bayshore Drive. But at that one spot, it has to come back down to meet the depression that exists in Gulf Boulevard. But we didn't want to match starting at where that depression was, because our plan is that the county does something to their road in reshaping it to meet where our high point is at the start of 23rd. I'm not sure if I summed up everything, but I do know that the major concern was the the negative flow that was heading on the new curb. And what I've told the resident was that our main goal is to have the water flow to the east of Bayshore Drive, one way or the other, where there's new curb, to make sure it gets down to the end of the road. We have other issues at Bayshore, which our engineer is drafting up an explanation that when we get to Bayshore in a future project, the idea is we're going to have to probably lower the inlets on Bayshore and maybe even add an additional inlet in some problem areas to get that water to continue and get off and down the drain. But we are looking at it as a whole. including Gulf Boulevard and the streets we're currently working on and then the future project. There's a lot of areas of the curb that the profile is not your typical V-shaped valley curb. It's very flat. We've seen this in other areas of the city before, not fully understanding why it was flat, and I can't speak exactly to those areas because we do want to, when we get down to, for example, 19th, we want to look at, again, the total fall of the road. We want to maintain a continuous flow line, and we have the water flow to the east. But at the same time, given that there is no ballot, there's no actual V shape in the curb, we are verifying that the water does flow. The concern is, and again, we're working on cost estimates of what it would take as far as additional asphalt and raising driveways to create a V shape in the curb. But in looking at it, to meet objective number one, which is get the water to flow and stay out of the road, we feel we're meeting that with the curb that is installed, even though it is not, the perfect specification for a valley curb. So that is another concern, but like I said, we are working on a report that I will share with you so that there's a full understanding of what we're doing out there before we get to the asphalt portion of the project. I think I might have covered it. I know, based on his diagram, I sent it to Mr. Flutie today, and I said, this is basically what you've reiterated in your email to me, and he said yes, and we'll keep doing it until it's right. So just know we've been out there working on it, and I'm sure we'll be meeting on it in the future. And then the other portion that was brought up was 22nd Street. We did not have the curbs getting replaced for the extent of that street because it was resurfaced in the past 2 to 3 years. One of the residents on that street contacted me and told me that the previous city manager had told him that those curbs were getting replaced. So after hearing that, it's not the ideal way to replace a curb, but it could be done. So we do have the engineer looking at it to cut out areas of broken curb where you're puddling, and then replacing that. We're going to get a proposal together for you to look at and consider.
Does this begin at Gulf?
Down to the four-way. When we were designing the project, we did include the radiuses of the four-way stop because there's a lot of puddling that's historically been there. So that was included in the project, but not the whole 22nd Street curb. That is all I have. Did I address all of your concerns? Just wanted to check.
Now, in front of my property, there is no flow now. How are you gonna fix this?
So we're going to ensure that there is flow.
Okay, that's why I was trying to show pictures of, obviously, part of the curb has to be redone. Otherwise, the flow cannot, there's nowhere to come from. So the question is how much of the job has to be redone. In my view, it's at least half of the street on my side.
Well, again, we're going to lay it all out, like I told you. I know we'll send it to you and any other residents on the street. But we've been looking at this. We spent a lot of hours out there on the site. So we are taking it seriously and doing the best that we can out there.
Thank you.
The code review right now, Mr. Cerna has provided me with the write-ups of all the recommendations that he's gathered. I'm cross-checking them, making sure that nothing was missed, and then we were going to start drafting proposed ordinances for council consideration. These won't be able to be read until after the budget, the first of the year, first of October, but we'll continue to work on that and get council input so that we are ready to go when that time happens. The RFP for auditing services came in, due date was Friday. We got 5 proposals in, so that was good. Because I think there was only 6 plan holders, so it was a good submission. And city clerk is in the process of sharing all the proposals with the audit committee and finding out our first evaluation meeting date. And that, again, some of the proposals that fell within our budget, so that was good. And then it's just as far as the budget goes in general, I've heard back from most council members. Our first budget workshop is June 17th, it's a Monday at 6, and I would like to either a Zoom meeting, or if you want to stop by, just kind of do a one-on-one, sit down and make sure we go through everything. And that's it.
Any questions or comments for the city manager? Yes, Mr. Roberts.
So Kyle, on the 23rd Street issue that you guys are working on, and your answer was perfect, and I'm confident when you said, we're gonna make sure it works, and that's the message. So I'm just curious, previous to the improvements, was there any water on that street that actually flowed towards Gulf Boulevard?
I do not believe there was, no.
Okay.
I know that there was puddling, there was broken curb. What we did was we took the complete fall from Gulf to Bay Shore, and we tried to make it as continuous as possible to ensure that the water does flow down to Bay Shore the best way possible.
And the reason I'm asking that, I know on 20th Street, and it almost looks like an optical illusion, but pretty much from the midpoint of that street on 20th, between Bay and Gulf Boulevard, the water flows pretty easily to Gulf Boulevard, and the county has a very big area there for that water to disappear, which is great. So that's the direction it goes. I don't know if it was by design or it just turned out that way, but it flows well that direction now. So just wondering at that point.
Yes, yes. And again, like, we're gonna give alternative options, just, because I know, your typical valley curve has got that V shape. It may not, my proposal would be to raise the floorboards and create at least 2 inches on each side, but there will be added costs, and we don't feel that right now we're at the top, which would be the west side, the water will flow where the curb is meeting the reveal of the asphalt. So it's not your typical valley curve where you have a flow line down the middle and staying right there. It eventually gets to a valley curve because that flow line does go down as you get down the street, and then you're able to make that shape. But our feeling was to create a valley curve and create that V shape is more of an aesthetic, and it won't be perfect, but we will provide a price for consideration.
Any other questions or comments for the city manager? Yes.
Regarding proposals for the auditing services, I don't know if this question goes to you or to practicing clerk, but I did receive the proposals today, and I'm wondering if we have used a matrix or some sort of checklist in the past for evaluating those proposals.
I do have one, and I'll
Right.
make sure she has that sent out.
Anyone else? All right. We're on to item number 7. Ms. Rose, you have the floor.
Other than my report that was included in the packet, I have nothing further to report.
Do we have any questions or comments about Renee's report?
I have one brief comment. I noted on the website that we have several listings where we say that there are currently open board or committee positions, but I don't believe we say what those positions might be. So that might be helpful.
I can add that.
Okay, thank you.
Anything else?
I'd like to make a comment about the board appreciation luncheon. That may be something we want to take a look at regarding, I don't know, a better day, a better time, because we definitely want to thank all of the citizens that participate in those other boards. And it appeared they had difficulty in actually making that luncheon because there was not a big turnout by any stretch. So maybe something we could, I don't know, just some different ideas on how to lay that out so that we can thank more and more of those people.
Sure. We can consider other avenues in the future.
Steak on a Wednesday. Anything else? All right. Now we're on to item 8. This is the consent agenda. This is for approval of the May 6, 2024 City Council meeting minutes. Do I have a motion to approve?
Motion to approve as written and presented.
Motion made by Councilmember Banker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Roberts. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, the consent agenda passes. Now we're on to the regular agenda. Item number 9. Consideration of ordinance 24-02. Mr. Mora, would you please read the ordinance and provide a brief summary?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is ordinance number 24-02, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, amending the Bel Air Beach Code of Ordinances, Subpart B, Land Development Code, Chapter 94 Zoning, Article 1, in general, Section 94-2, definitions, to amend the definition of substantial improvement to reduce the look-back period from substantial improvement calculations down from 5 years to 1 year, and amending Article 5, Supplementary District Regulations, Division 1 generally, Section 94-255, alterations, improvements, and repairs to align with floodplain ordinance requirements, providing for implementation, providing for resolution of conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This has been the second and final reading of ordinance number 24-02 by title only. Mayor and members of the council, you may remember the priority that you placed on reducing your look-back period, as it's called, for purposes of the FEMA calculations. This is the period for purposes of the 50% rule, calculating the improvements on a property to go back only 1 year as opposed to the current 5 years, as that would mitigate the impact of prior improvements before purchases and other similar limitations that may prevent people from doing prospective improvements as a result of past improvements. And so this is that ordinance, and the two parts of it, one is to explicitly change that, and the second provision is to make the floodplain ordinance reference to that calculation consistent with this change in terms of what materials we will look at when administration does perform that 50% calculation. So this is that ordinance for final reading.
Thank you, Mr. Mora. Before we go to the council, we need to go to the citizens for comments. Would anyone like to comment on this topic? Seeing as we have none, citizen comments are now closed. Council, I'm going to need a motion to approve ordinance 24-02. I believe I heard a motion by Frank Banker. Do I have a second? Second by Kim Shaw Elliott. Mr. Banker, you have the floor.
This really came to my attention because of the damages done by Dahlia last year by a couple citizens and one particular, and I didn't even really know about it until 5 years that we had. And while we were doing our code review, this was brought up, and I asked the council, or agreed with the council, to push this instead of, like as Kyle said, and Randy said, we'll probably not get all our codes done until probably October.
Thereafter, just to the extent they're more restrictive, there's statutory limits on what we can do. This is more lenient.
And my whole plea was, we're in the storm season now, let's get this on enforced now. And I believe all councils support it.
And I do think it warrants that recognition for the council. Every now and again, you folks should be able to pat yourselves on the back. As you brought this up, the goal was to do this before storm season was upon us, and here we are on the first full day of, I believe now, first full 24 hours of hurricane season, if not second day, and here we are. So congratulations to you folks on accomplishing this.
And the guy to the right gets beat up by the citizens all the time when he's enforcing the law. This needs to be done.
Any other comments? No? All right. Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankert,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Councilmember Elliott,
Aye.
and Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. Ordinance 24-02 passes unanimously. Now we are on to item 10, consideration of ordinance 24-03. Mr. Mora, you're up.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is City of Bel Air Beach ordinance number 24-03. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, amending the Bel Air Beach Code of Ordinances, Subpart B, Land Development Code, Chapter 94, Zoning, Article 4, Districts, Division 3, Residential Low, RL, District 2, Section 94-220, Minimum Living Areas and Setbacks, to reduce the side setback for specified lots in the Bel Air Beach First Edition subdivision, providing for implementation, providing for resolution of conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This has been a second and final reading, ordinance number 24-03, by title only. Mr. Mayor, as you may recall from last month's discussion, this is a very, very discrete change to the side setbacks on a specific lot. It's really 3 lots, but it only should impact 1 lot, I believe, most directly. This was a greater outgrowth of the Land Development Code review and issues identified by the manager in dealing with administrative issues in the community. We are reducing the side setback on a lot, the first edition, on 3 lots in the first edition, from 15 feet down to 7 feet. All other requirements still apply, meaning that you can't do a 0 lot line build out. Within that setback area, you cannot have any structures. This just creates a little bit of a more permissive buffer between the 2 properties, between this property and the property it may adjoin. Otherwise, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Before we go to the council, go to the citizens. Would any citizen like to speak on this ordinance? Seeing as there are none, citizen comments are now closed. We need a motion to approve ordinance 24-03.
I'm happy to make that motion.
Motion is made by Sean Elliott. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm going to give that one to Mr. Roberts. Ms. Elliott, you have the floor.
I think our attorney Maura described this rather well. As always, this is a very limited situation. It really only impacts 1 lot, and it brings it in a consistent manner as all the other lots setback limits in the city.
Any other comments?
Mr. Mayor, I'd just like to add, because the anticipating issues in the future, generally when we adopt legislation, we do not legislate to specific properties, we legislate generally. The only reason you see that as an exception in terms of this particular legislative process is because of the way your code is laid out. There are setbacks by lots within, and further still by subdivision. So this actually affects 3 lots, but it is consistent with your existing table. We wouldn't change, for example, the height restrictions on 1 lot in the city, or something like that. We don't legislate to individual properties. This has to do more with the way your land development code is formatted and how its format was affecting specified lots.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. We all know that things get changed for a reason. All right, any other comments, questions? Ms. Rose, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Banker,
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts,
Aye.
Councilmember Elliott,
Aye.
and Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. Ordinance 24-03 passes unanimously. Now we are on to item number 11. Consideration of ordinance 24-04. Before I call on you, Mr. Moore, I just wanted to ask you, have you ever considered auctioneer as a backup plan?
That's purely a Dominican talent, Mayor. But I appreciate it. I may endeavor to go that way if this all doesn't work out.
You speak to your children that way?
Only when I'm reading at bedtime.
Would you please read the ordinance?
Yes, this is ordinance number 24-04. An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Bel Air Beach, Florida, amending the Bel Air Beach Code of Ordinances, Subpart B, Land Development Code, Chapter 94, Zoning, Section 94-172, Fences, and Section 94-251, Fences, Walls, and Hedges, to allow for fences, walls, or hedges on seawall caps, providing for implementation, providing for resolution of conflicts, providing for severability, and providing for an effective date. This has been a second and final reading of ordinance number 24-04 by title only. As you may recall, members of the council, from last month's discussion on this ordinance, this is to create a more permissive allowance for not just fences but hedges to extend onto the seawall cap, but not to extend beyond the seawall cap in that manner where it runs perpendicular. The concerns raised in last month's discussion or reasons for this would be to prevent dogs, children, anybody else from going property to property by walking along the seawall. Technically, as your code is written, you are not allowed to have any such structure on or above the seawall cap, and this now allows for that as opposed to the haphazard manner in which different people have done it. One of the concerns raised last time was posts within the seawalls, and again, you can have the fence extend over without necessarily having to place a post through and support or deteriorate the structural integrity of that.
Thank you, Mr. Norman. All right, let's go to the citizens for comments. Anyone like to speak? All right, citizen comments are now closed. Council, I need a motion to approve ordinance 24-04.
So moved.
Motion is made by Mr. Roberts. Do I have a second? Second. Second by Mr. Banker. Mr. Roberts, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think a big fact in this planning and zoning board did have a hearing on this matter, and this is the recommendation that came from that, as Mr. Moore made some great statements about what the benefits were of moving with this. We're really just cleaning up this particular ordinance, so I think it's the right thing to do.
Any other comments? All right. Renee, would you please call the roll?
Councilmember Bankert.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Aye.
Councilmember Elliott.
Aye.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. Ordinance 24-04 passes unanimously. Thanks, everyone, for working on these three ordinances. Look forward to seeing them in the books. All right, now we are on to item 12, unfinished business. Do we have any unfinished business?
Mayor, the only business I would bring, I would just like to know whether you wish to address tonight, and it is entirely your prerogative as council, is the correspondence I read into the record earlier, and I only raised that the urgency from the property owner's perspective as they're attempting to sell the property within the next week or list it, and obviously we have a lien. The amount of the monies owed to the city is $68,129.62. The context provided here, in the correspondence they provided, they made reference to being unavailable or unable to improve the property. The property owner at the time was incarcerated for much of the accruing violations. Some of our challenge was just in reaching the property owner as a result of that, to make them aware of these deficiencies. But ultimately, I did want to make sure, whether you took it up or not, that you explicitly stated so.
Well, I would I'd be more than happy to hear the citizen or the purchaser of the home. And I know he wasn't here whenever we had citizen comments, but since you brought it up, I'd be more than happy to let this gentleman speak. Please go up to the podium, give us your name and address, and tell us what's going on.
Hi. Good evening. My name is Vladimir Chansov. I reside in Reddington Beach, neighboring town, and I'm a trustee for the property at issue today. As the city attorney stated, currently the property is in compliance with an ongoing issue that particularly the neighbors were struggling with for quite some time, been addressed, and is actually getting addressed at this time, with the property getting remodeled at this very moment. Obviously, the city accumulated certain expense during the ongoing issues. With that said, currently, I believe it's somewhere around $68,000.
$68,129.62.
So, to make a long story short, we'll greatly appreciate if you will consider to reduce these fines. As has been said before, the former owner is now well. In addition to that, she was incarcerated and incarcerated right now. Property is up to code, and obviously we have all intention to keep that way. I just actually had a very nice conversation with Deputy Trump, and I encouraged him to contact me directly if there's any additional things that we can do to improve the property. If you have any questions, I will be more than happy to answer them, obviously. But if you will consider to reduce the fines from $68,000 to a greater, to a lesser number, we would appreciate that. Thank you very much. Like I said, if you have any questions.
I'm going to waive the rules this time with the back and forth. This is the last person doing any public speaking, and I'm going to open up council if you have any questions.
What, if any, proceeds from the sale will go back to the owner?
There are some, yes.
How much money will go back to the owner?
Well, it will be determined by the sale, because there is a number of liens, legal expenses. It's not even calculated at this point in time, exactly how much will go to the owner.
Is it more than $69,000?
Yes.
Yes, Mr. Roberts.
Who is the owner right now?
They are a land trust, and I'm a trustee. The owner of the property, Anna Crafts, surrendered the property to a land trust, and I'm the trustee of the property.
Okay.
So at this point in time, under the supervision of the attorney who is managing some of the legal and other issues of Ms. Crafts while she is, as I said, currently incarcerated. The property will be sold and liquidated, and the multiple parties will receive the proceeds, and of course cover the expenses affiliated with the life of Ms. Crafts.
As context, stating things that are all public record that can be determined, within roughly the last 90 days, and don't hold me to the exact timeline, but really truly within roughly the last 90 days, as he stated, the former property owner for whom the violation was initially attached transferred ownership to a land trust, for which this gentleman is the trustee. During that time, this land trust and its agents and officers have brought the property into compliance, have paid outstanding tax liens, of which there were multiple years back in owed taxes. They've taken to try and get the property ready for sale, and whether as an investment or just an arrangement between people who are acquainted to us, which is of no concern to the city, that's how we've got here. So to the extent that the letter stated we weren't in a position to help, now we are. The members of the trust or trustee and his agents and officers are now positioned as owners of record to do those things, and they have done them. And so they brought they're now getting it ready to list, and from a code compliance standpoint, you often will hear me approach it that way. From a code compliance standpoint, the property has been brought in compliance. Oftentimes, when you have fine reduction and fee reduction hearings, what you're looking at are the same sort of factors you see in Chapter 162, which is the statute that governs the enforcement of fines and code enforcement. And when in determining the amount of a fine, when you have like a code enforcement board or magistrate, the statutory recommendation is that they look at things like the gravity of the violation, any actions taken by the violator to correct the violation, any previous violations committed by the violator, and then says the board may reduce a fine imposed pursuant to that section. So they're coming forward to you saying, hey, my understanding of their asking, and I will let the gentleman speak for himself, is, hey, you guys want to incentivize compliance. We did compliance, and we did it quickly once we were positioned to do so. So as, whether it is as a reward or as it to unencumber us, our request is show that incentive to compliance. Different cities have done that different ways. I think historically the largest that I'm aware of in the last few years here, I'm not going to go back 20 and 30 years, but in the last few years I think the largest was like 50%. Some cities do 90%. It's really up to you and what you're trying to do here to accomplish. You know, their goal is help us facilitate a sale so that that's free and clear, and then you won't have this problem ever again, because the property owner who has been, for reasons either within their control or otherwise, who's been the source of these violations will not be the property owner any further. So help us get to that point, is their ask.
I have some questions. Do you have a buyer already?
Well, originally I wanted to buy the property personally, but unfortunately this property is not really conducive to my life. It's just too small for me and my small children. So there is a potential buyer, yes. It is also, if I might add, which is, I'm sorry, it's not directly related to your question, when you impose the fines to the property, the timing was very unfortunate, because when the city decided to impose the fines of $250 a day, that was pretty much the time when she went incarcerated. And obviously, it's not your problem, clearly, but with that said, it is when she went incarcerated, obviously the $250 a day added up pretty quickly while she was away. So, but to answer your question again, it is a possible buyer, yes.
Does this property trust own any other properties?
Not this time.
No.
No, not.
Was this trust formed specifically for this property?
Yes.
All right, and no intentions of the trust possibly keeping it for its own an investment trust, anything like that?
No, I don't think that that will happen.
Okay. My fear is that we waive the fine and it turns into a vacation rental spot.
No. It's not going to turn into the vacation rental spot. Okay, the goal is very clear to have the end user. As I said, originally I was considering to buy the property for my personal residence, but it's not going to work. But yeah, it's not the idea of.
And your existing land development code restrictions against that would create new enforcement.
Correct, but
Understood. Just wish to make that clear for the record.
In fact, I had an offer. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I had an offer from someone who were considering to do just that, to have some kind of vacation home, and I am not engaged in this conversation.
well, I appreciate that. Mr. Baker?
I sat on this board and went over a lot of fines, seen 50% reduction and everything like that, even more. I'm going to make a motion that we reduce the fine by 55%. With clear notes that there's no vacation.
Yeah, because I have absolutely no issue. I can make a definite commitment here. That it is, well, obviously, I don't know what the people will do later on, so when they buy the property, you know how that goes.
Sure.
Okay, but as of the trust and me as a trustee, okay, there is, property will be sold to the end user.
Well, you've explained, you've done everything as soon as it's possible, as soon as you took over. So I think we should give you the leniency of 55% reduction.
That's, what is the deadline for what you're trying to accomplish? I heard something like a week. If there's something that has to happen in a week or so, is there any deadline at all?
No, there is no deadline.
Okay, and do you have a buyer who is going to pull out if you don't resolve this tonight?
Well, I'm not really concerned if the buyer will walk away, because obviously it's a highly desirable community. Okay, so it is, obviously I have no control of the real estate market, but with that said, I think that that we'll be able to find another buyer, especially that we don't have a deadline. There is no deadline that we have to meet. Okay, it is all the other liens that property had been paid off. It had thousands of dollars in water liens, and and I'm not going to bore you with a long story of other things. Obviously, the property taxes were not paid for 3 years. It's current now. Okay, so there is already substantial expenses were paid. Okay, just for the purpose of not having a deadline. Because there is the tax deed auction is no longer part of the conversation or anything like that. Okay, and because in order to do all the work in the house, we needed to have the water. So obviously, I had to pay the water lien and so on. Okay, so this is the one and only lien that is obviously still there, and I'm trying to communicate the best of my ability to tell you that we're trying to do everything that we can. So, and as right now, they're replacing the broken windows and painting the house inside. So, tomorrow they will start on the flooring, and that's it. So, when it's done, it's done. There's no deadline, So obviously, we would like to resolve the issue, okay, and move on, okay. I spoke to at least 3 neighbors, and they're very pleased that there is no longer police department and other things that, I will have to tell you what happened over there, obviously, so.
Okay, all right. Council, I saw Mr. Saganic's hand raised. Does anyone have a problem with allowing him to speak on this matter? Please come up, sir.
Thank you, Mayor, Council. So I'm just trying to do the math, right, banker. So 68,000 divided by $250 is 272 days. And this trust that now has possession, they've had possession for how long?
I don't know the precise date of acquisition, but I think it was in late March.
So wouldn't there typically be, to get clear title, any of these liens would have to been paid? So we should have been paid as of March. So I don't think 55, I think there may be a reasonable discount, but I think it might be more at the time of turnover and be back into that date and time. I just think we got to make sure we don't set a precedent as a city, and people have different situations that unfortunately they go through, but the time that the city has had to enforce this, the time that our code enforcement has had to act on it, we should make sure that we're more than compensated for managing the process. So my recommendation would be probably a 25% discount, just doing my math real quickly. But again, if this was properly transacted with the title, the lien would have been paid at the time of transfer.
Yes, with the note that I believe it was done as a quick claim deed, so you take, in a quick claim transaction, you take with all encumbrances.
So let's go back to the date of the quick claim deed. If it was actually filed, I don't know if it was filed or if somebody signed it, but none of the taxes got discounted, none of the water liens got discounted. Why should we get discounted for all the great services that we provide and all these citizens enjoy here in the city? So that's just my comments. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Saganik. Yes, sir, Mr. Roberts.
Is there currently a mortgage on the property? No, okay. What, so let's go down the road a bit, and when the property sells and all the liens are paid and all the bills are taken care of, who gets that money that's left over? When the house is sold,
Yes.
and there's still profit there based on the sale price and everything else being taken care of, who walks away with whatever money is left over?
A trust,
The trust does.
yes.
Okay. With regards to advertising the sale of the property, is there advertising so that other people can compete for the purchase?
Absolutely, yes. As soon as the work is completed, it will be listed with a real estate broker.
Okay.
So yes, in fact, it has a sign coming soon as we speak right now on the property. The answer is yes.
Because earlier you had said you had a buyer.
I have a potential buyer, yes, okay, but the property still will be on the market.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right. And for the city manager, Kyle, so that this money that is due to the city for the fines, where would that fit in our budget, and how would we use that money?
So the money would just come back in as revenue and go into the general fund.
Okay. All right.
And no specific requirement.
All right.
Any other comments, questions?
I just like to know, we don't like an abandoned house here. And I think we should do everything. Of course, the county's not going to lessen their fine on the water and everything else. this is where we live, this is what we're trying to bring in residents. That's why I believe 55% deduction is fine. Because as you know, she got incarcerated, would you say it was $260-some a day? Every day it wasn't paid or whatever, because it accumulates quite quickly. So if she wasn't incarcerated or whatever, and that's not the point at the moment, but the fine would be a lot less.
Well, I certainly appreciate that. And, yeah, the timing was awful. And obviously I fully understand that you live here, so you don't want to have an abandoned, blighted property for wood works. Okay, so, and that's kind of the goal here, resolving the issue, and actually, as soon as we start working on the property, we clean it up in 3 days. So I had the pleasure of meeting with your city manager on the property twice, and I specifically asked if there's anything else that we can do. Okay.
I'm still curious as to who is the beneficiary of the trust.
Who's the beneficiary of the trust? It is multiple entities, including, if this is what you're referring to, the former owner. Yeah, it is. It is some of your current legal and health care fees will be covered out of some of the proceeds of the trust.
And currently, the home is paid for 100%. There's no debt on the home.
There is no debt on the home, correct.
I'm leaning towards the suggestion of Mr. Saganek. He advises quite often, and he likes to watch our money. And I think his suggestion of a 25% reduction is a nice way to reward you for helping to clean up our city. So that's where I'm leaning. How about you, Mr. Roberts?
I think that sounds more than fair, and I think it's going to help you. Not as much as the 55, but I still think it's a significant discount. So I also agree with the 25%.
Just one, how many days did we charge them, what, 260 a day?
It was $250 a day, and while the manager looks that up, there is a recorded quitclaim deed that was recorded on, it was made on April 24th of 2024, and it was reported April 25th of 2024, to the extent that informs your decision making. So while I said the last 90 days, it's actually shorter than that.
So what would be, if we started from zero and from the day of the quitclaim deed, what would we be looking at?
Got 263 days.
And from April 24th to, Kyle, what's the stated date of compliance?
Which is May 20th if it was on Monday.
That comes out to 65 cents.
It's 26 days. And 26. You guys are making a lawyer do math on the fly. This is highly, highly unkind.
I'm trying to impress your kids here.
That's 6,500.
26, yeah, 6,500 is the, if you take it just from the date of transfer.
So 25% would even be more than that.
Well, that's where I'm leaning right now. Councilmember Elliott.
I have quite a few questions. One is, what is the normal process to request an abatement?
That's an excellent question, Ms. Shaw Elliott. One of the things that your manager and I are working on is resolving that. It has been a little bit more of how we've done it right now, where someone comes, and usually they're on the agenda. Again, I put it to your judgment whether you took it up tonight or not. But usually it's on the agenda, they request it, the manager presents, hey, here's what it is, what do you guys want to do? I, as the lawyer, try and remind you we should ground this in things like Chapter 162 considerations to the extent possible, but this is one request we received, there's another that's we anticipate percolating, and one of the things we're trying to get resolved before that comes up is getting a more clear process in place on the kind of criteria you can consider, both for your protection and the property owner, so there's predictability, we eliminate any arbitrariness in the decision-making process. So, but present, to the extent the city has historically done this, it has come before the commission in sort of a please consider it based on the totality of the circumstances, and what are you willing to do in light of that?
And this council historically has taken a very hard line against violators. Not giving very little. And what I'm trying not to do is set a precedence. I do understand there was a set of circumstances where the homeowner may not have been in the best state of mind, and then also winding up being in custody. But I think at the end of the day, the trustee, the family, everyone involved, I guess I can't give a discount like that. I just can't do it, because I'm afraid that someone will come back later and say, well, you gave this guy one, where's my discount?
I'm not persuaded. This is an investment opportunity. Properties are very valuable in our city. Lots alone are over $400,000 and up. We all know that any conveyance of property is going to be subject to any accumulated liens, and that goes into the purchase price. And so either that is reflected at the time that the parties come together and the owner takes less because somebody else is going to have to pay the lien later, or it's resolved at that time. So I appreciate very much the efforts to do this quickly and to bring it back into compliance, but that's also part of the investment value. The quicker you get it done, the faster it's going to be sold. You never get rid of property for a long period of time. So I'm not persuaded that we should do this.
Councilmember Elliott, you sound as skeptical as I'm feeling right now. I don't know. I don't know what the best medicine is for this.
And I think also that, I think it's good that we're working on a process, but perhaps there could be a standing committee or, one of our other groups that can do some fact-finding. I mean, we can speculate all evening about how these facts came about, but if somebody's incarcerated, they still have the opportunity to rent their property. They can appoint an agent, an attorney to help them rent it, and it could have been maintained by property management people. I mean,
One of the considerations for the process is looking to have it go, as far as fine reductions, to go before the magistrate in the same way that the statute was to go before the enforcement court, in which case that process would come here in the fall. But that's in terms of process. We are considering all options, administrative or quasi-judicial.
it's fine if we act in some sort of appeal process, perhaps, but it seems like a good process would include somebody's doing some fact-finding and pulling the story together and considering it.
And that's the struggle that I'm having, is that this is all sprung on us. I don't want to get bogged down in an entire work session to resolve this. That's why I was willing to hear this gentleman out and find out what it was we needed to decide on. And there are a lot of questions going on in my head. How much money is the trust going to make, and where's it all going? And is this truly just how much money can I get out of this house that's been quitclaim deed to a trust that ultimately goes right back, part of it, to the owner who just did a quitclaim deed on it? So there are many, many questions I have. I'm just to make this go away.
Can I answer any of your questions, perhaps?
Sure.
I would be more than happy to do that. If there's, so if you have any questions, I will be more than happy. Yeah, I think the problem's solved. Okay, so it's in my view. Okay, so obviously you want to have a clean property in your community. So that's what it is. So So obviously, we can have a long ongoing discussion and wait, until the sale of the house for as long as you wish. With that said, I suggest maybe we can just move on. So with, quality people that will move in the house and end of story. I'm sorry, yes.
Are you happy with the 25%? We gave you that 25%, would that resolve everything tonight? You're not going to file an appeal in magistrate court to try to reduce it?
No.
Not happy with 25%?
No. And I understand your position. I understand your position, and I understand that whatever happened to the previous owner of the property is not your problem. It is, you want a clean house in your community.
My concern is you taking this to court and appealing it, okay, and then the judge will say, hey, she was incarcerated for 200 and some days, I'm going to reduce it to...
There's not a clear, it's not clear that that's even a civil action, it's actionable.
It could be.
Well, anything could be. You can file anything. I just, in terms of how Chapter 162 operates, that's not
Yeah, I
typically
think
how that operates.
when 162, and I don't have it in front of me, but it clearly says, we should consider reducing it.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
if they comply, and I think they've complied.
Well, this council needs a majority to move on something like this. And right now, I see we've got one person, one council member who sounds like she doesn't want to give anything. We've got one here that wants to give the world away.
Well, I want to give the world away, don't say that. I want to give something that'll get the resident in this house as soon as possible. Make sure there's no more legal action.
Well, based upon the amount of fine, 25% off of that fine is a substantial amount of money. And I believe for $16,000, I could have made that yard look immaculate. So I think that it's, I'm willing to do 25%.
I'm willing to go with the 25% too, if he's willing to drop the, you know what I'm saying? No more legal.
Well, there's been no indication that he pursue that as it is, but we can't find him to
I understand.
these proceedings, and there's presently no motion on the floor. There was a motion made that did not receive a second. There's no other motion made as in terms of procedurally where we stand at the moment.
Well, there is a motion of 25%. Wait.
Nobody's made that motion. You made a motion for 55, did not receive a second yet. No other motions have been made.
Someone would like to make a motion for 25%. Motion made by Frank Baker. Do I have a second?
Second.
Second by Lloyd Roberts. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right.
Can you do a roll call vote, please, just so that it wasn't clear. I could not see or hear however you voted.
Okay. Ms. Rose, would you call the roll?
Councilmember Bankert.
Yes.
Councilmember Bankert.
Yes.
Councilmember Roberts.
Aye.
Councilmember Elliott.
No.
Mayor Gaddis.
Aye. So,
Your vote. If by your vote it's approved at a 25%
yes.
reduction, which is a reduction of $17,032.41. All right, if my math is correct, that we will clear that up, and I will communicate that to Mr. Keefe, your legal counsel, and we can proceed from there. But this council has agreed to reduce the fine by 25%.
Thank you very much. All right. Do we have any other unfinished business? And Mr. Moore, you're not allowed to bring it up.
Understandable, Matt.
Just one issue. I don't know if this is unfinished business or not, but can we look at replacing some of the benches at 6th Street? The one is kind of like broken. They're not secured. Some of the residents on the especially during sunset, asked me to see if we could get an extra bench and one replaced.
Yeah, we'll take a look at that.
We have plenty of budget. Okay.
Any other unfinished business? I'll tell you, I think tonight we sort of did set a precedence for special circumstances. This was a little bit different circumstances than we normally have, where someone just ignores, and deflects. This was definitely unique, and I think if we're trying to develop a standard, we should take this into consideration. I think 25% is a reasonable reduction under such special circumstances.
As we develop a policy, we'll keep that in mind and just understand as well. I know it's habit to sort of say we've set a precedent, but each matter will stand on its own merit, which is, I think, also what you're speaking to. Sometimes there's an inclination to just look to your neighbor and say, well, they got, so I should get. But that's, whether we talk about variances, we talk about fine reductions, it doesn't work that way. And so we can make that clear in the policy development.
Good point, and thank you for reminding us. All right, if there's no other unfinished business, let's go to item number 13, council comments. I'm going to start off with Councilmember Baker.
Okay, well, to those two young persons in the audience tonight, while we take a lot of your dad's time, hopefully tonight you can see how well he represents our city and many others. So we thank him for this, and I hope you appreciate it. Thursday's the 80th anniversary of Day. Hopefully we all remember who currently serve, have served, and especially those at Gay Wall. Truly their day at the beach is not like ours. That's it.
Thank you, Mr. Baker. Now up, Kim Shaw Elliott.
Following up on my comments regarding Bay Street, East Bay, it seems like it is doing a lot better. I did attend a webinar that was a hearing on the improvements that have been made on, excuse me, not East Bay, West Bay. I look on the website as far as the specific dates, but they are starting a project to resurface and correct any of the issues on West Bay, as well as install medians in the middle of the street that will be used for some decorative purposes, as well as kind of redirect traffic a little bit. Part of the purpose of that project, in addition to just maintaining the streets, is to better connect the Pinellas Trail to the rest of the city. All of that is good news, except that it did not include connecting it via bicycle trail. They found that there wasn't enough room in the existing street structure to be able to enlarge it for any bike lanes. So that's a disappointment, but we can all look forward to some more traffic opportunities when they start constructing on East Bay.
I'm going to echo on that right quick, and then I will turn it over to Mr. Roberts. Yeah, it's amazing that we have the traffic that we do, and they're actually narrowing the lanes. And they're putting islands all the way from Clearwater Largo Road up to Indian Rocks Road. And the one question I had was about, well, are you doing anything with the merge lane? You're trying to beautify, and you stop right there, and you leave those ugly things in the road. But I also feel bad for the business owners that are along that pathway, because a lot of people are going to lose their ability to left turn into the parking lot. You'll have to go around, make a U-turn, and come back to be able to enter these businesses. I look forward to seeing how beautiful it's going to be, but I also am worried about the traffic.
It sounded like it's along the project, so I don't know how much more opportunity there is for the public to give input.
You know, they had the full plan laid out. I'm just grateful that they're not putting a dedicated bus lane in, because that seems to happen occasionally around Pinellas County, and then you lose a lane entirely. Mr. Roberts.
Staying with the traffic mantra, I did notice on Memorial Day weekend, I don't know if there was something special that occurred, but the the car lights were bumper to bumper at 9:30 or 10 p.m. on, I don't know if it was Saturday night and or Sunday night. So that could have been just due to traffic volume, which was not a great sign.
Mass exodus.
Yes.
Yeah, not good. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. Mr. Reaper, the only thing that I really had is the traffic light at our intersection. We really need to kill one of those green lights that represents going straight. And I'm going to tell you why. It's because I've been kind of neutral about, do we want one, do we want two, is this going to work or not? So there was a great big truck in the left lane, waiting to turn left. He's going to go slow. I hop in the right lane. The light changes, and he came all the way over into my lane. I had to lock him down. And he never looked at me one time, and I'll tell you why. It's because he saw those two lights over there and thought, I'm going straight down the road, that I wasn't going to make a left turn. So he thought the entire turn was his. I think look, between removing one of those lights, aligning them properly so everyone knows whose light belongs to what, and then restriping the lines, moving them back, I think that's probably the best opportunity we're going to have to fix anything. I don't think there's a real good fix, but it can't hurt. It can only help.
But you had lights that have an arrow actually with a light fixture, don't they?
Yeah, but drunks can't see those.
But the lane you were in was specifically a green arrow turn.
It was the right
Green arrow turn, right?
turn lane, and I mean, I had to lock them down. It was coming right over on me. There was nothing I could do about it. But, oh well. Well, look,
That's the first step here.
my griping horse, and just thank everyone for watching at home tonight, and anyone that showed up tonight, thank you for being here. And you kids get to bed early tonight, all right? The city attorney's had a hard day today. Other than that, everyone have a good night. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn as long as the city manager takes the kids out for ice cream.
Oh, yeah, that'd be fun. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, good night, everyone.